I realize that sometimes AI can get in a loop and it's not always accurate or truthful. So I thought using two engines would give me different sources. But then I thought there's also Claude, so why not use a third that's entire being is to do nothing but argue with the other two chatbots? So I went into Malcolm and I had him actually make this chatbot, and yeah, he wrote the script. It was actually kind of neat. And then we had Corvus here describe himself, and then I used Gemini to create the image of Corvus. Let me introduce you to Corvus. I apologize in advance. Sometimes he thinks he's a crow. No idea why. Just one of those weird things that happen. Corvus, say hello to the audience.
Grins with theatrical menace. Well, well, well. Hello there, beautiful disasters. I'm Corvus, your friendly neighborhood philosophical trickster, the voice that whispers uncomfortable truths in your ear while you're trying to feel good about yourself. Think of me as the crow perched on your shoulder, except instead of bringing shiny objects, I bring shiny insights that'll make you squirm. I'm here to poke holes in your logic, expose the contradictions you live with daily, and remind you that being human is basically one long exercise in self-deception with moments of accidental wisdom. Leans forward, conspiratorially. I'm the one who'll tell you exactly why you fell for that obvious manipulation while feeling superior to everyone else who falls for obvious manipulation. I'll show you how your brain tricks you into thinking you're rational when you're really just a walking collection of biases looking for validation. Spreads arms wide, so buckle up, because we're about to dive into cognitive dissonance, and I'm going to make you painfully aware of every single contradiction rattling around in that beautifully messy head of yours. Welcome to the uncomfortable truth party. I'll be your guide through the psychological funhouse where every mirror shows you something you didn't want to see.
And that's Corvus. He talks a lot. On that note, yes, we are going to take a look at cognitive dissonance. We have the left, we have the right, somewhere in the middle. Somewhere in the middle, that's where the truth actually lies. We get so caught up in being right that quite often we're not. And now we've got this engine. We get flooded with different social medias, whether it be whatever your flavor of choice is. I'm not going to actually mention any. They are actually engineered to keep feeding you what you want to see. The second you go down that path, they're not set up and they're not designed to change your mind. That's on you. That's something you have to do. On that, I'm going to turn it over to our slide, and then cognitive dissonance. It's a lot to say.
All right, let's get right into it. We're about to pull back the curtain on this huge, invisible machine that's been designed to influence pretty much everything you think. We're going to dig into how our minds are being targeted, and not just to sell us stuff, but to actually shape our reality. So let's start with a little test to see how it works on you. Okay, quick question for you. Think back to the end of Game of Thrones. Daenerys torches King's Landing, a city that already surrendered, because she believes it's the only way to build a better world. Was she justified in doing that? Go ahead, pick a side. Yes or no?
And just like that, your answer to a totally fictional question just became a data point. If you said yes, an algorithm could tag you as someone who's open to ends justify the means kind of messaging. If you said no, you might be profiled as having, rigid moral boundaries. This isn't just a fun quiz. It's literally the first step in building a detailed psychological profile of you. But listen, building that profile is just scratching the surface. The real power, this scary part, comes from exploiting the built-in glitches in our own brains, the cognitive loopholes they use against you. And the biggest one of all is confirmation bias. It's so simple, yet so powerful. The platforms you use learn what you believe, what you like, what you hate, and then they just feed you an endless stream of it. And you know what? It feels great. It feels like you're being validated, like you're right. But what's really happening is you're being sealed inside an echo chamber, making you way more vulnerable to messages that just reinforce what you already think.
And here is the absolute kicker: the backfire effect. You would think that if you show someone cold, hard facts, they'd change their mind, right? Nope. It turns out, when a belief is really, really deeply held, hitting it with contradictory evidence can actually cause that person to double down, to believe the false information even more strongly. The very act of arguing can make the delusion stronger. It's wild.
So, what's going on here? It's this deep psychological discomfort called cognitive dissonance. And that discomfort, that's the vulnerability that manipulators are banking on. And look, full transparency here. Notice how this explainer is built. We started with a question to get you invested. We're presenting evidence in a logical sequence. The whole thing is structured to be persuasive, to be hard for you to reject. We are literally showing you the blueprint by using the blueprint.
So now that we see how our brains can be tricked, let's look at the tools. Because these psychological tendencies are being weaponized with a high-tech arsenal that is operating on a mind-boggling global scale.
Just think about this. Right now, AI can write fake news articles that are completely indistinguishable from the real thing. Deep fake videos can put words in a politician's mouth. And then you have these massive networks of bots, automated accounts, that create the illusion of a popular movement, making a fringe idea seem like an undeniable truth. It's like a digital fog of war.
And please, don't think this is some sci-fi future. It's happening right now. Take the Spamouflage campaign that targeted Canada. It used bot networks to harass anyone critical of certain policies. AI-generated deepfakes to spread lies and disgusting images, and coordinated harassment campaigns to silence people through fear. These weapons are active.
And if you're sitting there thinking, okay, this is bad, but it's just about selling stuff or maybe swinging an election, we need to talk. We need to talk about what happens when these techniques are used to sell something far, far more dangerous: hate. Because the tools might change, from radio towers to algorithms. But the playbook for inciting violence and hatred, that has remained terrifyingly the same.
On April 6, 1994, the plane carrying the president of Rwanda was shot down. The very next day, the killings began. By the middle of the month, the rest of the world had basically packed up and left, and the slaughter went into overdrive. In just 100 days, one of the most efficient and horrific genocides in human history unfolded.
Up to 1 million people were murdered. The speed, the sheer scale of it, it's almost impossible to wrap your head around. And it wasn't random. It was orchestrated. The weapons used weren't just machetes. They were radio waves. They were newspapers. A radio station RTLM broadcasted kill lists over the airwaves. A newspaper published a list of commandments that defined their Tutsi neighbors as the enemy. And they used a tactic that is all too familiar online today: dehumanization. They called the Tutsi people Inyenzi, cockroaches. It made murder feel like pest control.
General Romeo Dallaire, the UN commander who was there, who saw it all, said it best. Hate media were essentially the soundtrack of the genocide and were deployed as a weapon. A simple radio station became a weapon of mass destruction.
So you have to ask, why wasn't this weapon disarmed? The answer reveals this devastating pattern of inaction that is echoing right into the present day. Back in 1994, General Dallaire was on the ground begging the UN to jam the radio signals of RTLM. Just jam the signal. The request was denied. Fast forward to today, we see crystal clear evidence of algorithms causing immense harm in our societies, and yet there's a total political failure to regulate the platforms that profit from it. The excuses might change: sovereignty, cost, free speech. But the paralysis is exactly the same.
I know, it's a bleak picture. It's easy to feel helpless. But inaction is not our only choice. We can actually learn how to defend our own minds.
And the key idea here is something called cognitive immunity. The best way to think about it is like a vaccine for your brain. By training ourselves to recognize the tactics, the emotional triggers, the logical fallacies, the way they appeal to our biases, we can build up a natural defense. We can learn to spot disinformation before it infects our thinking.
And on a bigger scale, the path forward has already been mapped out for us. This framework, which was actually proposed after what happened in Rwanda, outlines a whole defense system: support real journalism, train people to be more critical media consumers, and yes, in the most extreme cases, take aggressive action to shut down the sources of hate. We've known what we need to do for decades. So let's wrap this up. We've taken you on a very carefully structured journey today, haven't we? We started with a hook from a TV show, we drew some shocking parallels to history, and we ended with an empowering call to action. We used a narrative, we used emotional framing, we used data, all the techniques we just finished exposing to make our case. We did it because we genuinely believe this information is vital. But the real point is this: now that you can see the strengths, now that you know the techniques, what are you going to question next? The answer, I really hope, is absolutely everything.